Imagine standing at the pinnacle of success, millions in the bank, power at your fingertips, and the world at your feet. Yet, something was missing. A void so deep that all the wealth and accolades couldn't fill it. Until she walked into his life and changed everything. What you're about to hear is more than a story. It's a journey of redemption, of understanding, and of finding true purpose when you least expect it. Lean in close, because this might just change everything you thought you knew about success. I used to think success was something you could measure. Dollars in the bank, awards on the wall, magazine covers with my face plastered across them. People would look at me and see everything I'd accomplished. A self-made man who'd beaten the odds, who'd climbed so high that the view seemed endless. But here's the truth. No one tells you about success. It can be the loneliest fucking place in the world. I remember the night everything changed. It was a Tuesday, unremarkable in every way, except that it would become the moment everything I thought I knew about myself would unravel. My penthouse overlooked the city, a glass and steel testament to everything I'd achieved. Floor-to-ceiling windows that showed the world beneath me, literally and figuratively. I'd conquered industries, built companies from nothing, turned heads in boardrooms where men like me weren't supposed to exist. From the outside, I was perfection itself, a black man who'd shattered every statistical expectation, who'd turned generational struggle into generational wealth. My net worth spoke louder than any words ever could. Millions, influence, power. The kind of success that makes people stop and stare, that makes other young black men look up and believe something is possible. But inside was a different story entirely. Success is a strange beast. It promises fulfillment, but delivers a hollowness that echoes in the quietest moments. I'd spend nights surrounded by everything money could buy, yet feeling completely, utterly empty. The awards felt like paper. The money felt like just numbers. The power felt like a mask I'd grown too tired to wear. I wasn't living. I was performing. Every achievement was another layer of armor, another way to prove something. To whom, I'm not even sure. Maybe to the world that had told me I couldn't. Maybe to myself. But armor is heavy, and eventually, you start to suffocate under its weight. I didn't know then that everything was about to change, that a single encounter would strip away everything I thought I knew about success, about purpose, about myself, that a black woman would walk into my carefully constructed world and show me how little I actually understood about true power. Growing up, survival was our first language. Not dreams, not success, just pure, raw survival. I was raised by a single mother in a neighborhood where hope was a luxury we couldn't always afford. Every day was a negotiation between what we needed and what we could actually get. My mother was a warrior, working double shifts, sometimes triple, her hands calloused from cleaning other people's homes and working factory lines. She'd come home exhausted, but never defeated. "You're going to be different," she'd tell me. Those words weren't just a wish, they were a mission statement. I learned early that the world doesn't give you anything, you have to take it. Scholarship was my ticket out, my mother's prayers sewn into every late-night study session. While other kids were playing video games, I was memorizing formulas, writing essays, building a resume that would scream opportunity louder than any door could ignore me. College wasn't just an education, it was warfare. I wasn't just competing with my classmates. I was fighting generations of systemic barriers, proving that a black kid from our neighborhood could not just survive, but absolutely dominate. Every internship, every networking event, every connection became a weapon in my arsenal of ambition. But ambition is a complicated lover. The more I achieved, the more hollow the achievements felt. Each milestone was another brick in a wall I was building around myself. Top of my class. First in my family to graduate college. Landing a job at a Fortune 500 company before most of my peers had figured out their career paths. Success became my addiction, my way of proving my worth. I wasn't chasing money. I was chasing validation. Every promotion was a middle finger to a system that was never designed for someone like me to succeed. Every dollar was a testament to my mother's sacrifices. Every award was proof that we could rise. But rising is lonely work. The higher I climbed, the more disconnected I became from everything that once gave me purpose. By my early 30s, I had become a machine, networking, grinding, acquiring. My worth was measured in quarterly reports and LinkedIn connections. I'd built an empire, but empires can be the most isolating kingdoms of all. Success had become my prison, and I didn't even realize I was holding the key. I thought I was building something. Turns out I was just running. Running from the kid who was told he wouldn't make it. Running from the neighborhood that still lived inside me. Running from the vulnerability that success was supposed to protect me from. Little did I know, the most profound lesson was waiting just around the corner. And it would come from the most unexpected place. I wasn't looking for anything that day. Not wisdom, not connection. Definitely not transformation. It was just another conference, another networking event where I was supposed to be the star. The successful entrepreneur everyone wanted to meet, the guy with the golden touch. She was different from the moment she walked into the room. Not because of how she looked, though she was striking, but because of how she carried herself. Confident, unapologetic, like she knew something the rest of us were still trying to figure out. Her name was Amara, a community organizer, a scholar, a force that would completely demolish everything I thought I knew about success. Our first conversation wasn't some magical moment of instant connection. It was sharp, challenging. She called me out before we'd even properly introduced ourselves. Another tech bro thinking his millions solve everything, she said, her eyes cutting right through my carefully constructed persona. I was used to being the smartest person in the room. Used to people wanting something from me. Used to being admired, courted, respected. But Amara... She looked at me like I was a problem that needed solving. You've got resources, she told me. Not a question, a statement. But resources without purpose are just noise. Her words landed like a punch. I'd spent years accumulating power, building wealth, creating an empire. And here was this woman telling me, essentially, that I was wasting it all. What was supposed to be a quick conversation turned into hours. Not because we immediately liked each other. We didn't. We argued. We challenged. We peeled back layers that I'd spent years carefully constructing. She talked about community, about real impact, about using privilege as a tool for transformation, not just personal gain. I'd done plenty of charitable work, donations, scholarships, the kind of surface-level giving that looks good in annual reports. But Amara showed me the difference between giving and actually seeing. Between writing checks and understanding the systemic barriers those checks might help dismantle. She wasn't asking me to feel guilty about my success. She was challenging me to redefine what success even meant. Every assumption I had about community, about impact, about my own role in the world, she dissected with a precision that was both terrifying and exhilarating. I realized I'd been playing a game, and she was showing me an entirely different field. Power isn't what you accumulate, she told me one evening, over coffee that had turned into dinner, which had turned into a conversation that would change everything. Power is what you do with what you have. I didn't know it then, but this was the moment everything would change. The moment someone would finally see past the facade I'd built, past the success I'd manufactured, and challenge me to become something more. Something real. Transformation isn't a light bulb moment. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a painful, messy process of unlearning everything you thought you knew. Amara didn't just challenge me. She introduced me to a world I'd been blind to, despite thinking I was so fucking enlightened. She began taking me to community centers, to grassroots organizations, to the real front lines of change, not as a donor, not as a savior, but as a student. I remember the first community meeting she brought me to. It was in a small church basement in a neighborhood I'd driven past 1,000 times, but never really seen. These weren't people waiting for a handout. They were architects of their own liberation, fighting systemic barriers, with nothing but collective hope and relentless determination. My money suddenly felt meaningless. My awards, paperweights, the networks I'd built, just empty connections. Amara showed me that true power isn't about what you accumulate, but what you redistribute. She introduced me to local initiatives that were doing more with $500 than I'd done with millions. Small businesses run by women supporting entire communities. Education programs rescuing kids from systemic traps. Healing circles that were rebuilding what generations of oppression had broken. I started listening, really listening, not with the ear of a potential investor looking for a return, but with the heart of someone who was learning that humanity is infinitely more complex than any balance sheet. My company became something else entirely. We weren't just investing, we were partnering, not saviors, not heroes, just committed allies. We shifted from traditional venture capital to community-driven investment models, funding businesses that weren't just profitable, but transformative, supporting entrepreneurs who were solving real problems in their communities. But this wasn't about guilt. This wasn't about redemption. This was about understanding my place in a much larger ecosystem of change. Amara never let me off easy. Every step was a challenge. Every assumption was questioned. She didn't want my sympathy. She wanted my genuine commitment, my true understanding. I learned that my success meant nothing if it wasn't lifting others. That wealth is a responsibility, not an achievement. That true power comes from connection, from truly seeing the humanity in others. My mother always told me I was meant for something more. I thought that meant personal success. Now I understood. It meant being part of something larger than myself. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent years trying to prove my worth, only to discover that worth was never about what I could acquire, but what I could give, what I could help build, who I could truly see. This wasn't just a business transformation. This was a personal revolution. There's a moment when everything crystallizes, when all the work, all the learning, all the transformation focuses into a single point of clarity. For me, it happened in the most unexpected way. It was a community center project. Nothing glamorous, just a small building in a neighborhood that had been forgotten, overlooked, written off. Amara had been working on this for years, not as a project but as a promise, a commitment to rebuild what systemic racism had deliberately torn down. The day we opened the center, I realized this wasn't about me. It was never about me. I watched children who looked like me when I was young, bright, hungry, full of potential, walking into a space designed specifically to nurture their dreams. A learning center, a safe space, a bridge between what was and what could be. My mother was there, the woman who had sacrificed everything, who had planted the seeds of possibility in me long before I understood what possibility even meant. Watching her eyes, filled with tears, with pride, with a depth of emotion that words could never capture, I understood everything. Success isn't a destination. It's a continuous conversation with your community. It's about creating pathways where none existed before. It's about using whatever privilege, whatever resources you have to lift others. Amara stood beside me, not as a savior, not as a guide, but as a partner. She had never wanted to change me. She had wanted me to see myself, truly see myself for the first time. My wealth became a tool. My network became a bridge. My influence became a platform for voices that had been silenced for generations. We didn't solve everything. That was never the point. But we created something real, something that would continue long after we were gone. I used to think success was about standing alone at the top. Now I know it's about how many hands you can reach back and pull up with you. This isn't a story of redemption. This is a story of awakening, of understanding that our individual success means nothing if it doesn't create collective possibility. To the young person watching this, wherever you are, whatever your circumstances, your worth is not determined by what you acquire, but by what you give. By how deeply you can see the humanity in others, by your willingness to listen, to learn, to transform. My journey wasn't about becoming a hero, it was about becoming human, truly, vulnerably human. Your definition of success is waiting to be rewritten. Are you brave enough to look beyond the surface, to find purpose that transcends money, power, and fame? The choice is yours, but remember, transformation begins the moment you decide to listen.